Hey there, friends. Welcome back to another Legally Armed America video. I'm, of course, Paul Glasgow here. A little bit of fireworks in the Tennessee House yesterday. I'm going to show you several clips. The video will be a little bit lengthy, but I want you to appreciate the context about which everything is said by both Representative Pearson and Representative Farmer. Now, Representative Pearson, you might recognize he was one of the 3 Tennessee people after the Covenant school shooting. If you'll remember, there were 6 innocent people who were shot by a gender-pretending trans person, which we still have not got the full report yet. And he was one of the people who was holding up, with the group of people, holding up 7 fingers, meaning there were 7 victims when there were really just 6. They were actually including the trans gender pretender as one of the 7 people innocent who were killed during that, quote, gun violence epidemic. So yeah, that's the quality of person we're talking about. But let me set the video up for you real quick, because it's very important you understand the context. Mr. Pearson, and I do feel sorry for him in this respect, lost his brother on December 1st, 2024. His brother took his own life with a gun. So you have a representative who is riding the wave of, quote, gun violence, and his own brother takes his own life, not from gun violence, from gun suicide, or suicide with the firearm, right? So what a beautiful thing for him. I mean, while I feel sorry for him, I'm actually mocking him right now because he has wasted no time taking advantage of the fact that now he has something that he can make personal and ride it out and exploit his dead brother after having killed himself with a firearm. So he is using this to make money and to further his cause. Make no mistake, I don't apologize for that. It's very obvious, and it's going to be really obvious in this video. So what happened was his brother took his own life on December 1st of 2024. They buried his brother on December 14th. I don't understand waiting 2 weeks to bury a dead body, but that's just the way it is. So giving him the benefit of the doubt, knowing that was not his son or his mother, knowing he did not have to do all of the arrangements or whatever, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt for the month of December, the whole month of December, not just between the time his brother took his own life and the funeral, but the whole month. In fact, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt of the whole month of January. In fact, I'll go a step further. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt of most of the month of February. So let's see, he can, something he mocks us for, thoughts and prayers. You'll see that in this video. But I respect his thoughts and prayers for his brother for the whole month of December, whole month of January, and most of the month of February. Because in Tennessee, there is no session in play until February 18th. I went to their own calendar for the Tennessee state and looked, and on February 17th there was nothing scheduled. February 18th is whenever General Assembly resumes business in the state of Tennessee. So for 80 days, Mr. Pearson was allowed to mourn. Then his job was supposed to start on February 18th, 80 days after his brother took his own life. Apparently he did not. He did not show up for work. And he's mad and embarrassed that he got called out for it. That's why he got mad. It's important you guys understand that. Because if you don't know that, you might wonder, what's the beef here? But Mr. Farmer is upset because Mr. Pearson is trying to scold them on a law they passed when Mr. Pearson did not bother to show up for his job, even after being given 80 days to mourn his brother's loss, still didn't show up. Now he's blaming the fact that he wasn't there to take part in the legislation. Now he's coming to complain after the fact. Now he's saying that he was taking care of his brother's stuff and his brother's affairs. Watch the video.
Appreciate the conversation and discussion, because that's what democracy requires. Our participation, our questions, our conversation, our discussion, not just the end of debate, because you don't want to hear something. This bill is to repeal permitless carry. In our state, we have had this since 2021, and since this bill has been passed, against the will of our chiefs of police, against the will of our sheriffs. We have seen a sad increase in the number of homicides and suicides as well. When this body repealed the permit requirement to conceal and carry a handgun in most public spaces, gun deaths have increased. And I saw some folks here from the Tennessee Firearms Association, a leader there, John Harris, said, if you want to carry a gun for self-defense in Tennessee, go get the permit. 59% of Tennesseans disapprove the 2021 bill, and we are continuing to live with the ramifications of the decision of too lackadaisical attitude and legislation related to guns and firearms in the hands of people who should not have them. I am a proponent not just of the Second Amendment, but of the right for people to responsibly carry firearms. In our state, giving anyone who can walk into a gun store access to a firearm that can hurt them or to hurt other people is wrong. It is detrimental. It is immoral. And it is consistently leading to more problems for our communities. If indeed child health is a critical indicator of a society's well-being, as one of our own state agencies have said, the burdens of homicide among Tennessee children is higher among blacks, males, and children aged 15 to 17, with firearms being the leading means of lethality. We have a responsibility to do all that we possibly can to protect our communities, to protect our kids, to ensure that they are safe. Since 2013, Guns in Trunks was passed. In 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, we have continued to pass legislation that has made it easier for people to have access to firearms. Now, in this moment and in this time, tomorrow, where we are remembering the Covenant mass shooting that occurred, the largest mass shooting of a school, as we continue to remember Antioch and the lives of people right in District 86, including a pastor whose funeral I have to go to this Friday, who's died from gun violence, we have a responsibility to not let politics stop us from good public policy, realizing that the lives of our people is what is paramount, not the wishes of the NRA or the TFA or other people. We, as legislators, have an opportunity to right a wrong. And while some folks have supported not having a permit, we know that better education is and will lead to better outcomes. And if you're an economics person, financially, with the revenues from the permits, over $11 million will be coming back to our state. We have a moral obligation to do what is right. And this law has not, at any moment or any time, helped to improve the safety of any person living in the state of Tennessee. And so I implore you, care for our kids, care for our communities, care for our families who are suffering because of bad laws and bad legislation that put the voices and the ideas of a few over the lives of millions of Tennesseans. We need to do something about the gun violence epidemic. We have the power to do something about the gun violence epidemic, and we don't just have to offer some empty thoughts and prayers. We can do something, and now is the time to do it. And I will continue to advocate for that because I believe in it. Personally, from our family's own experience to the experiences of too many people in our district and in our community who are suffering from the lack of good laws and good regulation. I know a lot of people who own firearms and want for responsible gun ownership to happen with responsible education as well. You don't have to throw out responsible gun ownership in behalf of the Second Amendment. Thank you. With that, I renew my motion, Mr. Chairman.
So empty thoughts and prayers. You picked up on that, right? So he's mocking us for giving thoughts and prayers, yet he took 80 days to give thoughts and prayers. Now, Mr. Farmer has a rebuttal on that. Mr. Farmer clearly is not happy with Mr. Pearson having been AWOL from his job after having the benefit of the doubt of 80 days of thoughts and prayers. Now he shows up and wants to scold the committee and all the members on a law that he wanted to pass to take away constitutional carry in the state of Tennessee. And you can see he obviously lied about a whole bunch of statistics that they are cherry picking and using to their advantage that are completely untrue, and I can show you that at a later time. Here's Mr. Farmer's rebuttal.
Thank you, Chairman Farmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And with regards to your remarks, you talk about, well, we need to be heard, democracy, and all this. I know every member in this committee has been here this year working during committee, during session, voting on bills.
Yes, sir.
And I know you may have some things going on, but you have not. So I don't think it's fair for you to come in front of this committee and lecture us on hard work and convictions and hard work for our committee. So when I understand where you're at and what you're doing and why, but at the end of the day, we've been here working. We've been on the House floor voting on bills. We've taken the tough questions. We've taken the tough votes.
Yeah.
And we're doing so. So I don't think it's fair for you to come here and lecture this committee on hard work when we've been up here doing the hard work. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Basically, life goes on. We all lose people during the course of our job and don't get to take 80 days off and mourn and then take an additional month off, right? This was a month ago when session was in play, and this man again shows up to scold members of the Tennessee House when he wasn't there during the whole time they were there doing their job. Again, I got to repeat, after already having had 80 days, he added another 30 to that. So over 100 days of thoughts and prayers for his brother.
Thank you, Chair Doggett, and thank you, Chair Farmer, for your comments. They incense me. They make me very, very angry. Very angry. Not just because of the lack of regard, but the disrespect and the same denigrating tone that you used on the State House floor when the vote to expel me happened. It's disrespectful. It's unbecoming, and it's beneath the standard of a person who's supposed to represent in the Tennessee House of Representatives. It is a pathetic excuse for you to not answer the question of why we are doing nothing about the gun violence epidemic than to personally attack me. But let me explain to you what I have been doing, Representative, since you asked. My brother, Temperance Darnell Pearson, one of the loves of my life, passed away from gun suicide on December 1st of 2024. And since that happened, it shattered my family like gun violence has shattered so many families. Shattered my nephew's lives, my mother, my father, my other brothers who are remaining. I buried my brother. I planned for his entire funeral. My fiance made his obituary. I made sure that he was taken care of, even in death. That's what I've been doing.
So he's been taking care of his brother even in death. Let me explain something to you. Yeah, they buried him on December 14th. This debate took place, it was yesterday, March 24th. Session came into play February 18th. So from December 14th, when there was nothing going on with his brother, over 2 months later, on February 18th, that's when he was supposed to show up to do his job. And he still didn't. After 2 months after having buried his brother. But that's what I've been doing, is what he says. This is where you start to see the embarrassment for being called out. This guy was not expecting to be called out. Now he's been called out in front of everybody as he was trying to make a show of it and as he was trying to exploit his brother's death to his advantage. He never expected to be called out, but he got called out. And now he's mad because embarrassment has set in and he has been called out for being the fraud that he is. And he's mad now, and you can tell.
But also, not just that, I went to all of my nephew's schools. I met with their principals and their teachers to ensure that they are okay. I gave them and made sure that they had grief counseling and that they're seeing a psychiatrist. That's what I've been doing. And while you're talking about hard work, you need to realize that our job is not just in this state house with these marble floors. Our jobs are on the streets and in the communities that we serve. And so while you've been here passing bills that have been hurting transgender children, while you've been here passing bills that have been hurting the poor, hurting the marginalized, hurting the disenfranchised, while you've been here passing bills that have not ended poverty, while you've been here passing bills that have not helped people who need Medicaid expansion, while you've been here doing the hard work of making sure that our state is not the state that it can be, because you have decided.
Representative Pearson.
Reality of our situation is only to be.
Representative Pearson.
While you've been here doing that, I've been in my community.
Representative Pearson.
Meeting with young people, going to school, registering
Representative Pearson.
voters. That's what I've been doing. Hard work doesn't just happen with this legislation. It happens.
Representative Pearson.
And if you will, Chairman, just one more minute, because Chairman Farmer seems to think that he somehow
Representative Pearson.
seems to understand my life better than I do. You need to
that hard work isn't just sitting there and shutting up and passing a bill. It's doing the hard work of justice and love and mercy. It's
Okay.
doing the work of lifting the voices of the poor and the marginalized, and it's taking your
All right.
and your pain and your heartache, and it's standing in front of people who you know may not like you, standing in front of people who you know will disrespect you, people who you know will talk down to you, and saying in the honor of people like my brother, in the honor of people who have died from gun violence, in the honor of people who have died from suicide, we need to pass better laws,
Representative Pearson.
and fight for a state where everybody is able to live more freely from the pain of gun violence that me and my family are experiencing. That's what you need to think about, Chairman Farmer. Come on. And if you can't think that, learn to shut up.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Learn to shut up.
Ladies and gentlemen.
So he talks about meeting with the school. It's one school, by the way. And talking to people about getting grief counseling. That's not anything he would have done. One phone call, maybe. 80 days. 80 days. And 2 full months after his brother was put in the ground. So I guess within that time frame is whenever he was making that one phone call and meeting with that one school. You didn't show up to work because you had 2 things to do. I understand why you're mad. You got called out for being lazy. You got called out for milking something, a family tragedy. And I know that hurts. I know it's tough when you get called out. It's got to hurt. You know, when somebody sees that you are exploiting a sensitive topic, they usually won't call you out because it's disgusting and sickening and everybody can see it. But you got called out and you weren't expecting it and it made you mad. Now here's Mr. Farmer with a pretty quality response to that, and it's kind of along the lines of what I was thinking.
Representative Pearson, it seems that it's very common in your party when you disagree with a comment, and I was not disrespectful to you, that you resort to yelling. Basically, everything you just told me, you just did. I have a family. I've made sacrifices every year. So
Representative Pearson. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Representatives.
So after all that, the committee goes back to normal routine business, and Mr. Pearson stays at the podium. Again, angry and embarrassed that he got called out for the grift that he was trying to push as being his new cause. His brother died at the hands of gun violence, even though it was his own hand. Believe me, I understand the whole mental thing. I feel for his brother's mental condition that made him apparently take his own life, even though it had nothing to do with the firearm. His brother was mentally ill, clearly, took his own life. It wasn't gun violence, it was suicide. Mr. Pearson then decided he was going to, during everyone doing their business, their normal business in the State House, that he was going to walk across the room because he had to complete the show, right? He had started the show and he knew he'd been called out. So he felt like he had to complete it. So he walks across the room and approaches Mr. Farmer.
When you have 2 ayes, 7 nays.
The noes prevail. House Bill 1392 fails. No, sir. 5-minute recess.
So as you can see, as the audio drops out, I will show you. This is equivalent to the person saying, "Y'all hold me back." He walked up to Mr. Farmer and knew better than to put his hands on Mr. Farmer until other people got between him and Mr. Farmer. Then he pushed in, again, as if to say, "Hold me back." He knew better than to put his hands on Mr. Farmer. Mr. Farmer might have broken his ass in half, because Mr. Farmer does look like a relatively thick person. And old string bean over here, Mr. Pearson, looks to be all talk. Looks to be similar to what you see on social media today. People running their gums. When they get face to face, they want nothing to do with you. This was a show. This man knew that as long as he didn't touch Mr. Farmer was not going to touch him, because Mr. Farmer seemed like a civilized man, and Pearson knew that. Pearson knew that he could go up to him and make a show as if he was a tough guy, but as long as he didn't touch him, he was going to be safe. Notice he did not lay a finger on Mr. Farmer, because at that point, Mr. Farmer could have legally come up and crushed his beanpole ass. Again, this was social media in action, because this is just how the social media people act. Run their mouths until they don't run their mouths anymore when they know danger is apparent. I want to repeat my comment from earlier regarding thoughts and prayers. This man, Pearson, his defense as to why he didn't show up for work 100 and something days, or at least didn't show up until 100 and something days after his brother passed away. His excuse is he was taking care of his brother's family and his brother's legacy or whatever. Thoughts and prayers. Again, mocking us for thoughts and prayers. So he mocks that, but yet that's his excuse. We're supposed to respect his time for thoughts and prayers, but he mocks ours. I have another question. If this entire time for the last 4 months you have been dishing out thoughts and prayers, why'd you show up this day? Why this day? Are you done now? Is it finally complete? The thoughts and prayer period is complete for you? So you showed up this day. The day that cameras would be there. The day that you knew you couldn't stop a bill or make your little bill tearing away at constitutional carry. You knew it wouldn't pass. So you showed up on this day, not during session. You showed up on this day to try to push this bill and push your grift. And you got called out. So you got mad. You weren't expecting that, were you? But you showed up on this day. Friends, this is a perfect example of the whole gun control movement is an act, and it's a grift, and it's a direct exploitation of other people who have suffered at their own hands, and they take something and they push it onto something else like, quote, gun control. And like he said, a gun violence epidemic, which there is no such thing. Not one time did he talk about trying to get help for the mentally ill. Not one time. Why do I bring that up? I'm not trying to disparage his brother, who was clearly mentally ill. I'm trying to make a point that the human brain makes decisions. Sometimes those decisions are bad decisions. Sometimes they're catastrophic. And in this case, his brother made a bad, catastrophic decision to take his own life. It could have been a hammer, a Coke bottle, asphyxiation. Could have been any number of things. Make no mistake, the Second Amendment and the freedoms that we have, that's not why his brother took his own life. His brother took his own life because he is mentally ill. Don't restrict my rights because you have a mentally ill brother. His brother took his own life because he made the decision to take his own life. And apparently his brother was nowhere to be found to help him. After 30-something years, his brother took his own life. How did his own brother, Mr. Pearson here, not see any signs of that? So he's been running around on this grift of guns while his brother has been suffering with a mental illness that he ended up using to take his own life. I say it all the time, guys, the age of no accountability is here. This guy is the perfect example of exploitation of something really bad that happened to him and not taking any accountability on himself for helping his brother or for his brother taking his own life. It's easier to blame a gun and I guess avoid the embarrassment that comes with the fact that you allowed one of your own family members to take their own life. It's easier to blame the gun than to take a real hard look at the person. I also don't see him talking about any mentorship. This guy, one of his areas that he's over is Memphis, Tennessee. Horrible crime, horrible area. Memphis, Tennessee is the armpit of Tennessee. I don't see him talking about mentorship. All I have seen from him is the anti-gun rhetoric that he vomits all the time. You saw it here. Not once does he talk about our young men and women needing some guidance because daddy ain't around. Daddy is absent. 80% of the people in prison come from fatherless homes. Guarantee you that same statistic is very likely exactly the same or worse in Memphis. Yet this guy would rather talk about firearms because that's the low-hanging fruit and that's the easy thing to do. You know what the hard work is? The hard work is convincing a deadbeat dad to spend time with his own family. The hard work is mentoring young men who are young teenagers on the street who think it's cooler to be a gangbanger. That's the hard work, going out there and doing the hard work face to face when the problem is already metastasized. It's already in motion. The easy work is to dress up with your grandma's shawl, your little Afghan thrown over your shoulders, and to sit here and scold people when you haven't even been around. That's the easy work. You are avoiding the hard work, you are dodging the hard work, and you're taking the easy way out. You, sir, are the definition of a grifter and a sorry human being, and you have done nothing for your brother's own legacy. You have tarnished it by exploiting it.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.